welcome to another broadcast of The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. All past shows are available in podcast form. You can find them at ArtistFirst.com. We welcome your questions and comments. Hit us up at dj@artistfirst.com. And now here they are, your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, C-Man. And I'm Michael Lyons.
And I'm Margaret.
And tonight our topic is cold and hard.
Oh dear.
It's better than hot and hard. Anyway, tonight our topic is cold and hard, and it is the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So help me God.
Mm-hmm.
We actually ran into a pretty cool quote sometime back. This is not one of those things that we ran into like 20 seconds ago and just dragged into a topic format. Although we can do that, and we may have a show where we take extemporaneous topics from the listening audience and just talk about anything. We might have a talk about anything show.
Oh dear.
You give us the topic, we'll talk about it. But tonight's topic, though, we ran into some time back. Do you want to read the quote, my dear?
Sure. If you'd like me to.
I would, because my voice is just gone tonight.
Okay. And this quote is by John Masefield. Man, with his burning soul, has but an hour of breath to build a ship of truth, in which his soul may sail on the sea of death. For death takes toll of beauty, courage, youth, of all but truth.
Of all but truth. And that's really what our topic is tonight, is that which is ephemeral is what concerns the world. The world is concerned with all things which, as Tolle would say, are form. They pass away. They sometimes last but a moment. In fact, even in the ephemeral world, they are themselves incredibly ephemeral. Our lives are also, our whole entire life is one of these ephemeral things, and there are many, many distractions within our lives which try to, focus our attention upon them and upon these, he says, and the poet says, beauty, courage, youth, but really it's all things. It's all things which are part of the distraction.
Mm-hmm.
And the words here are just incredibly evocative. Man with his burning soul. Well, the burning soul, that which is incarnate in the flesh, that which is of spirit and is eternal, but in this case unique. It's in this one incarnation, but it's from source. That's the only part which will outlast the ephemeral, which will take the experiences of this life back to spirit, back to source. But that burning soul, and he says it so beautifully, has but an hour of breath. We have such an incredibly short time that we, unfortunately, fritter away.
Mm. It's true. Man with his burning soul has but an hour of breath to build a ship of truth. And when you think of that, burning soul, and you think of a flame consuming its wick, its candle. And that was always the way the older cultures always thought of fire. Fire was, what is fire? It's in another dimension, and you call it to this moment in reality. Suddenly it blossoms into being. And burning soul is the same kind of thing. Where is your soul before it's here? And you're made manifest within this body of a candle to burn out your life at that point. And to realize, as you said, the limitation is the amount of breath you wind up taking within your journey here. So, where do you start on building your truth?
It's a great question. That is a great question. Where do you start on building your truth? And some might say, I don't know if there's a real right answer, but I think that certainly there's one answer, is that you start within your own self. You start by being, by realizing. The realization of this hour of breath in and of itself is a revelatory experience. You say, I don't have a lot of time. I've got to concentrate on that which matters. And what matters is the heart, because the heart, if you want to know where the ship of truth originates, what architect you use to build the ship of truth, it is the heart, not the head. The head will tell you all sorts of lies with holes in it that will sink.
Well, that phrase, to build a ship of truth in which his soul may sail, to understand that you are formulating, you're constructing this ship, this vessel, in which your soul is being carried along in. And most people would say, oh, well, it's your body, it's the one you're born into. It's like, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
Your soul is that part of you which thinks and feels and chooses. And all of that can be crafted into your own truth, the truth of your own soul. Because everyone's soul is quite unique. Do you understand yours? Do you appreciate the form that you are? Because your soul is going to be sailing in what you surround yourself in. And the phrase again, to sail on a sea, but for this poet, it's a sea of death. It's process, it's time, it's understanding the limitations. The sea of limitations would be a good interpretation, I'd say.
I saw that. I like your interpretation a lot, but I saw that when sailing upon the sea of death is to construct a vessel which will carry you above and on top of all the ephemeral. The sea of death, to me, and I like your interpretation too, but mine was that the sea of death is all the distractions, and you build a ship of truth. Which, what does the ship do? It keeps the water out. It keeps the distractions out. And it in and of itself, it's a strong shelter for that which is precious and not ephemeral, which is your burning soul. And this sense of urgency in this phrase, this poem, this stanza, is beautiful, because that hour of breath to build that ship of truth is. It shows you how precious life is, and how easily one can be lost, can be distracted, and in essence sink. But I like yours too. I like the fact that it's a sea of I'm sorry, you said a sea of limitations. Limitations is lovely. I like that too. So in that way, the ship frees you from these limitations. It again kind of rises you up out of that which is detracting from and maybe dissipating your essence, your life force, into that which doesn't matter, which doesn't last. These things which you can pour your essence into, the pursuit of endless beauty, or endless youth, or all the the sort of the pieces of life, like ambition or accomplishment. I mean, this isn't to detract from these things, but Tolle would also say, we love Tolle, that these are just forms, and if you allow them to occupy your mind and distract you, you don't be. You are now just entirely consumed by these forms.
Well, it's understanding that the death that's being spoken of here is taxing on your courage, and there's only so much time you have here, or the beauty has to do with your own perception of yourself. All of that is, as you said, it is ephemeral, but it's also understanding that you're only touching the surface of truth at that point. And when you understand that it is the journey that matters, you can actually choose the vessel, or you can craft your vessel into something that is a statement of the piece of truth that was put inside of you. Because each one of us has been given a gift that is so unique to every single person, but its expression is yours to do, however that expression may be. So, and it has nothing to do with what people tell you is important. It has everything to do with what resonates internally, makes your heart sing. You're so joyful in that moment where you are expressing what is deep inside of you. For all of the changes and the flux around you, and the people around you, the situations around you, for all to see. And all that matters is that your song, your resonance, is being expressed in that moment in space and time.
Yeah, I like that. When you do those things, and I think we said this just a little earlier, that you're doing them. The perception of truth is through the eyes of the heart. We always say that. If you're talking about, if you want to know when something's true, ask your heart. So the perception of truth, and that which brings you, and we'll just say it, that which brings you joy, which brings you bliss, which brings you completion and fulfillment, a relationship, even the manipulation of objects, the creation of art, which is being put into a tangible form, which then so often outlives the creator, yet is, even to the extent that others can look at it and perceive, you can perceive the being of the person who created it in the art that speaks for itself. It acquires its own life when you put being into things. A relationship which starts in the ephemeral plane outlasts both the death of the person who is, both of the people who are in it. It'll outlast their times. It'll outlast their ephemeral bodies. It'll continue on, because those things acquire a being state of their own from your essence, your being. So you were saying, in essence, is that you're crafting. Maybe he says a ship, but I think it's each thing that you put your being into becomes part of that. The image of a ship. We're not creating a flotilla here, but each thing that you actually put your being into wholeheartedly, which is a wonderful phrase. To do something with a whole heart is also to do something which provides nourishment and a true resonance at the heart level, and it becomes something which is no longer ephemeral in that regard. It becomes your own expression.
I believe it has a lot to do with understanding what a vessel actually is.
Mm.
And the fact that we participate in the creation of vessels for life's energy.
Mm.
And to be able to focus in and find that particular expression that you participate in. I said it before, it's your own unique frequency.
Mm.
And because most people, they have a tendency to, they see something, they like it, then they copy it. But when you search deep inside to find that which truly resonates with everything that you are, you're so completely alive in that moment that you can't imagine being more alive in any way, shape, or form. That expression is really why you came here.
Mm.
Because you are unique. Most people, they banter around the word co-creator in participating with the creator of the universe. But do you actually understand what that means? Because to truly co-create means that you understand you participate with everything that you are, incorporating all that is in that moment. And it does become eternal. And it is something that is very hard to describe, but that's why the way they describe enlightenment, when the lightning bolt of illumination comes, people think it's like, oh, well, it's like a light bulb that just must turn on.
Bing!
And it's such a narrow perception of it, because if you think about it, just for a second, think about this. All the bands of energy in all of creation in this universe is so vast, and what we can perceive as humans is maybe only 5% of the bandwidth that is.
If that, yeah.
Only 5% are you able to perceive of what's around you when it comes to light and energy. Yet we believe that, oh, well, unless I see it, it doesn't exist. And you sit there, you're going, okay, you're only seeing 5%. Do you have any idea what that means? It's even less than what a blind man may perceive.
Well, you said the sea of limitations. There's one.
Exactly. So what kind of a boat are you building at that point? If you only say, okay, 5%, and this is all my 5%, you're like, oh. Because the sea that is vast.
And it's deep. I want to go back. I like that too, but I want to go back to what you were talking about, vessels. Isn't it so? I mean, we talk a little bit just to 5 seconds of physics, every vessel has a resonance. Every vessel, every musical instrument, depending on its size, how you craft it as a resonance. And so as you build your ship of truth, it has a resonance. It captures your essence. If it's done, again, wholeheartedly, you put your own resonance, your own essence. And that ship is relationship. That ship is things which both you do and are done to you, things that you realize that become part of your experience. All those things are, if they're true, they resonate with your essence.
And
they
your
can
essence takes everything into account. It's not just the mental or the emotional, which is where people have a tendency to concentrate.
But yes, and those are limitations too. But that resonance, one of the features of resonance is that it will grow. It will grow louder. When you resonate, all of a sudden it's louder, right? Why? Because it builds upon itself. So when you find something which resonates, and you build a vessel to capture that, it grows larger. It both enlarges or adds energy to you. And as you said, now the limitations are, well, I have to see everything through this one emotion, or I have to see everything through this one tiny little crack of a lens, or this color, or whatever it may be. Those are, we can laugh at, so those are falsehoods, but they're falsehoods. They are the distractions. Try and say, well, it has to all fit in my box, in this tiny little box, and then if it doesn't fit in the box, well, can't deal with that.
Well, it's again limitations.
Limitations.
When you're embracing your limitations, as well, this is who I am. This is my expression.
Mm.
And you sit there and you go, so this
is who I am.
That's it, huh? This little dot on the page. That's all you got. Okay.
So if you're going to not do that, you have to open oneself. The openness of the heart is to also allow for that which you cannot perceive on this 5% narrow window. You have to say, well, there's much more. There's a vastness. I think we spoke about either the show before or the show before that, the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
To allow for the fact that the ego knows all these things, and it wants to put what's the ego? Nothing but limitations in the ego. The vastness, which is beyond all ego and beyond all emotion, that which is you, contains all that and resonates at all those frequencies which the ego can't approach, and yet it is you.
Yeah, it has a hard time dealing with it because it's past its own boundaries at that point.
It doesn't like that.
Well, no, because it only wants what it wants.
Yes. The ego, I must say, wants to build a rowboat of lies.
A rowboat. Oh my.
A wheelbarrow of lies. How about that one?
It has to do with control. As long as it's got control over what it perceives as its world, that's when it's in its happy place. I'm not sure if it ever is happy. Truth.
I would say comfortable. It wants to be comfortable. The ego wants to be comfortable.
That's true. It's a comfortable place. It's amazing, really, when you think of it. I always thought, this is a random thought.
Go for it.
But the ego is the result of the body's self-defense mechanism.
Interesting.
Something seems to approach as a threat the body, and so this ego pops out to okay, push it away, kind of thing. And I always thought, well, if that's just a self-defense mechanism because you have to manage what it means to interact with other people. In other words, you're dreaming the common dream, but you don't want to be subsumed or taken in and consumed by someone else's dream. You need your own dream. And the ego is what comes out of that self-defense. Because you're supposed to have your own dream.
Well, I think, and the ego is all about rejection. Well, a lovely ego phrase is "bad ideas come from other people." Every one of your ideas is precious and wonderful, and everyone else's ideas are, we got to think about that, because that's the ego. It wants to put remember Tolle's phrase, I was right. The ego wants to be right. It wants the ego was right. That's an ego phrase. You see?
Well, I think it's where it starts. I think it starts expression when you're little, and the phrase that comes out from your lips, "That's not fair."
That's not fair. Yes, that's true. That is an ego phrase.
It's just not fair.
It's not fair. And the problem is that those words can be used justifiably, but what the ego means by that is I'm not comfortable. I think it's not fair. I want something else. I da-da. It's all about me. It's all in the key of me. It's all sung from the point of I. And in Mayfield's poem, the ego is very concerned with beauty and courage and youth and to reject all these things and pursue them. I am beautiful and I am courageous and I am ever youthful. That's the ego.
It's true. Because if the ego comes as a result or a self-defense from the body, then its boundary forms are beauty and what were the other ones?
Courage,
youth. Well, beauty and youth. Those are your boundaries that you feel that's going to define you according the foundation of how to judge the reality of what's going on around you by judging beauty, people's youth.
All about limitations.
Yeah.
All about limitations.
Fascinating, really.
It is. And the lovely thing about the ego is, again, because it's always, I like this and I don't like that.
Sure.
It's true. You know what? Let's. This is a wonderful moment. Let's take a moment with our burning soul. We'll go back to the studio. We'll have a short break, and on the other side, we'll talk more about the cold hard truth.
The wait is over. First Blood, Book 2 of the Blood series is out. Your favorite bad boy thief, Dev, is back, and the beautiful and deadly Trey is right there with him. She is sharp, sexy, and full of surprises. Their adventures continue as a new power arises to threaten the world. The heart of creation is under attack, and time is definitely not on their side as they battle against their enemies' undead hordes. Can they unlock the hidden power that can defeat him, or will his forces draw first blood? Get all 3 installments in the series. Book 0, It's in the Blood. Book 1, Destroyer's Blood, and the new release, Book 2, First Blood, today. Available in ebook and paperback format on Amazon, Kobo, Apple, and most other fine e-tailers.
Rick Riordan fans, love mythology with plenty of action and humor? Destroyer's Blood is for you. The new fantasy novel by award-winning author Michael Lynes is Book 1 of the Adventures of Dev Kalian, the Blood series. Follow Dev and his magic sword Betrayer as they are suddenly attacked and forced to return to Olympus to fight in a war they want no part in. The world of men and gods is about to be destroyed by Zeus's ancient foe, and only Dev and Trey can stop him. The conflict never stops, and the amazing twist will have you on the edge of your seat. Act now while the ebook is on sale for only 99 cents. Destroyer's Blood is available on Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere. And while you're there, get the free prequel, It's in the Blood, available for a limited time.
Hi, this is Hannah Ruth from the band Wild Hum. Check out our new Americana Soul CD, Wild Hum, at our website, wildhummusic.com. And you are listening to the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Thank you.
The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed is the latest book from Michael Lyons, the award-winning author of There is a Reaper. Featuring 13 original stories, this wide-ranging collection has everything. Forbidden love, gods versus demigods, weird invading aliens, sexy seductive artificial intelligence, and unusual passion between the living and the dead. All set amidst fantastic worlds of pain and loss and boundless joy. From the sublime to the macabre to the bittersweet, The Fat Man Gets Out of Bed will leave you breathless with laughter, brimming with tears, trembling with suspense. Available now on Amazon.com, Google Play, iTunes, Kobo, and fine e-tailers everywhere.
There is a Reaper is the story of 5-year-old Christopher Aaron and his life-changing struggle with leukemia. Winner of both the Indie Bragg Medallion as well as the reader's favorite silver medal for memoir, There is a Reaper has more than 100 Amazon book reviews and a 5-star rating. It has been described as life-changing, spiritual, a must-read. Just released on Audible and iTunes, this memoir is also available in paperback and on Amazon Kindle for only 99 cents. Get your copy of this life-changing memoir today.
Listening to The Soul of the Everyman on the ArtistFirst Radio Network. Back to your hosts, Michael and Margaret Lyons.
Thank you very much, T-Man. And tonight we are talking about the truth. Truth. And I think the first half hour we found some very interesting nuggets. But can we go back, or maybe I'll put this up there and see if we want to go this direction. But the part of us which is closest to being and to the truth is the heart.
It is the center, yes.
And that's if you're trying to, let's just say, put the ego into it. If you're trying to perceive the ego's limitations, you will perceive them with the eyes of the heart. You can always ask your heart, is this thing which the ego is telling me is important, is it really?
You have to be able to switch your consciousness from hearing the mental noise constantly, because we've all been trained to accept mental noise. Ever since we're little, someone always speaking about something or having an opinion about something, and most of us aren't trained to be able to just be still.
Right.
So before you can even begin to ask your heart that's having a conversation, you got to be able to know when your heart's speaking, or is it just another voice echoing from old memories that you've had.
Another ego voice.
Because the ego voices like you to stay at that surface frequency of ego. That way they have all your attention. But to allow all of you to come to a point where the voice is full. It's all of you speaking. And it sounds weird, I know, but when all of you is in alignment and speaks, people understand that this is truth. It's undeniable. And that's the interesting thing. All of us know when something is spoken from a point of such deep heart resonance.
You always say, we speak of words from the heart. This is from the heart. And when you hear words from the heart, they instantly kindle a resonance in your own heart. You can feel them like they're beating within your own chest, for a metaphor, if you will. And the truth of them, because that's what they are, the truth of them strikes you. It is, like reading a poem, like from, let's say, Khalil Gibran or many others, and the words of poetry are very close to truth. And when you read them, and you have to think about them, and not the ego think. You have to let them resonate. You have to kind of let them kind of flow into you, and then it strikes you that this is such a true. And I'll just say that the words of truth, the words of the heart, are profound, and yet they are very easily understood. When you get down to the nub of them, they elude definition, but they engender understanding. You find a commonality in them at a lower or greater level than the ego can perceive. They quiet the ego too.
Well, poetry especially is about resonance. It's evocative. Most people say, it brings emotions up, but it's more than that. The resonance hits on all levels, and the poem itself is speaking on multiple levels. So the resonance at that point is dimensional. It's not just reading a line of poetry and meter and rhyme and you can dissect it, but it is what it alludes to, that the heart is trying to communicate out there. And when I say communicate, it's again bringing another heart into the alignment of the poet.
Yep.
So that the two of you are resonating together, your hearts are beating together, and what concerns one is echoed in the concern of another. And it has elements of the mental aspect, of language, but it's more than that. It's the form, the vessel, communicates the soul itself, the truth of that person's soul in its raw form. And that usually, when something has hit that type of brilliance, very rare, but memorable.
You begin to feel as though this person at a personal heart level. This person may no longer have a corporeal form. They may have, in fact, not been alive during the same period of time that you were alive, yet you feel as though you have a relationship with them, because a piece of being in a vessel was communicated to you, and such that your heart and their heart are meeting in a trans-time, trans-space kind of way, they're dead and gone. You have never, ever met this person and never will, but that almost doesn't matter because of the way they put their being into this poor form. Perhaps it is a mental form because it's what we have. We have words on a page, but yet given those words on a page are such a poor form, you can still put true being into them, which then touches the heart. As we say, it touched my heart is the phrase. Truly touches the heart of another. And I think in some way, Margaret, that it also resonates back to the other being, because it is trans-time and it is bi-directional. There's a relationship there which isn't just that person giving you something. You also give back to them at the
same level.
At the same level.
It's a resonance. That's exactly the definition of resonance.
Yes.
Because you both have matched the same resonance, and like a tuning fork, it begins to amplify at that point.
Right. Exactly. And those things add to your own being. They amplify that which you are. They instruct. They change you in a way that then becomes part of your life story or your life song. And we talk about the life review. There are pieces that you will receive, vessels that you will receive from other hearts and other truths from other souls that will become part of your truth. It will add to your vessel and become part of your song and your story.
Right. To see, it's allowing you to become aware of the web of life all around you, and understanding that your heart is actually one of the nodes in that web. It's not your extremities, it's not your memories, it's none of that. It's the heart essence.
You need to say that again. It was so beautiful.
Okay. The concept of the web of life, and people have very blithely talked about it. Oh yes, the web of life. But it's living with your heart as the nodal point in that vast universal web. And the interconnectedness sweeps through you in waves of movement, of energy, of life force. And you resonate with it, but in that resonance, you amplify it. So you're gifting to everything around you in that web, but it is a heart to heart to heart to heart structure.
The interesting thing about nodes, in a resonance, when you have a resonance pattern, all these different hearts in resonance, the nodes are the still points in resonance. Your heart, even though it's resonating, is a still point. It is a being point. It is truly a point, because resonance requires points as well as the energy.
It becomes the eternal point.
Yes.
Because it is still, and it is in that still state at every point of now.
Exactly, now. The heart deals with now, and now, like we were talking about with someone who is no longer corporeal, it doesn't matter, because now is timeless and spaceless. It is just now. And the words of the poet, doesn't matter when. When is a ego state? Now. The words come to you now, and they affect you now.
Right. And now is your eternal point.
Yes.
You have it in the now. You have it always.
Yes.
That's your singularity point.
Yes. That's the ship of truth, to go back to Macefield, is a ship of now as well. It is the moment of being that and he says an hour of breath, but really it's an instant in which your burning soul, the now, if the being lives in the now.
I think the hour of breath that he talks of is rather interesting. Because it's understanding that you must speak into this world.
Ah, yes.
And you're only given so much breath in order to do that.
Yes.
Do you value that at all? Does the words that come from your lips have that essence of your uniqueness, the gift that was put into you to breathe it out into this world?
So it's so interesting. We talk about again words. The I am who am, the words of manifestation, the words of creation, if you will, are now moments. Even when the physicists talk about the Big Bang, for argument's sake, there's no such thing as time at that moment. We talk about the Big Bang as being so far in the past, but in essence, the being of it might as well be happening now. There's no time between then and now. It is an eternal now. That realization, which comes through science and mathematics, and in some ways in the lowest forms in the quanta, is something that we feel in our own selves, in our own being selves, because we are part of that now. The ego wants to deny it all. The ego wants to say, that was 13.5 billion years ago. How can you talk about it as being now? Well, your whole perspective from the ego's point of view is, yeah. But you're the part of you're one of the things that we're sailing over in our ship of truth.
Yeah. Well, again, it is the boundary point.
Yes.
Of the interaction of you with something outside of you. Your ego is the body response.
Yes. I like you began to elaborate on this. I think we went in a different direction, but it being the body's defense mechanism, it's so interesting. It's like an immune system against the truth. Well, it's trying to defend the body against the truth. The reality is that the body is ephemeral and constantly in a state of let's just say decay. At least the powers of the body. The lie is that the body is forever, and the truth is that the body is just a burning hour.
Well, I think of it in terms of the ego is responding to the things that are happening to the body. The greatest struggle the ego has is to be able to distinguish what is yours and what is not, because everything around you wants to convince you that this is yours too, and this is yours too, and this is yours too. But the whole idea, your immune system basically has to identify what is not its and has to get rid of it.
You mean the actual body's immune system? Yes.
The actual body's immune system, that's how it functions. It must get rid of everything that is not itself.
Right.
So that's why I'm saying the ego is having that same reaction. Has nothing to do with understanding. You're giving it, honestly, You're giving the ego too much credit.
Too much credit. Right.
Okay.
So it's really, you would say it's more almost like a reflexive kind of defense. You're
Yes.
not me. You're not me. You're not me. You're not me. You
Yeah.
know, and it's basically singing the song of me. You know.
Right. But that is its function, is to understand what is of it and what is not of it.
And what it falls in love with is how it sees itself in others. It's a truly narcissist, right? To fall in love with one's own image all the time in everything.
Oh, that's a whole nother topic.
It is. That's our typical tradition. Is near the end of a show we find a whole other topic to talk about, but the defense of the ego is that if it's not me, I reject it. It's like the bad ideas come from other people. All that is rejectable is what is not the ego.
Okay, what I'm saying is that there's got to be a distinction between what is not yours. And because people basically say, well, what is of me is good and what is not of me is bad, which is not always the truth.
No, hardly.
Okay, that's a whole other classification. It all gets melded together like this is the way it is. But no, it's not.
Yeah.
When you are able to distinguish that what is good and what is bad is different from what is me and what is not me.
Yeah.
You know, everything just, people just want to pile it all together and not think in terms of, well, I'm just making this assumption.
And if I might, I think totally would say that the judgment of good and bad is in and of itself a distraction. And those are you talked earlier about the voices. You know, it's these voices which will rise up, which are ego voices in various forms, trying to tell you that this is good and this is bad and consciousness just says it is. It is what it is. It doesn't matter whether you think it's good or bad. In fact, please don't tell me whether it's good or bad. Just hush. Be still.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with any of that. It has.
Right.
There's no consciousness itself observes it all. And you do not have to engage in it. The minute you start a conversation, you are engaging with it. You must learn not to engage, because otherwise you will constantly be at the mercy of your ego, thinking that somehow you've made it past everything and you're enlightened. Seriously,
yes.
Like, you've got to let that go. It has nothing to do with it. Do not engage in the conversation of trying to convince yourself that you are right or you were wrong or they were right or they were wrong. That's all ego. All ego.
To go back to Macefield, in that engagement, you're not sailing upon what he calls the sea of death. You're treating with it. You're joining with it. That truth ship, the truth vessel, it literally rises above that and finds a different existence, which is not part of this sea of death, this ego, this endless ego sea, which is what the ego wants it to be, and yet you find the boundaries of it. We talked about it, I think, again last show. The consciousness is outside of the ego. The ego is, you're on the land and looking at the sea. There's the ego. There's the emotion. There's the limits of the body, the sea of limitations, and you're outside of it all. You contain all those limitations, and you are more vast than all of them.
Yes, it's the definitions are we said when we started this conversation, Okay, I look upon it as, yes, the sea of limitations, but the limitations have to do with the flow of time down here. That creation of time, which basically leads to an end. There's a beginning and an end when there's a flow of time. And your burning soul doesn't need to participate in it because it just is. And the breath being an hour is to allow you to see that you are but a vapor on this world.
And you know, what this, I love when you said in the beginning with the flame, the burning, coming into existence from where is here for that brief hour, you know, and then consumes the candle and goes back. That evocative image is a good way of saying how this sea of death, if you will, the candle and everything in it, all of it, has nothing to do with that which inhabits it for a short period of time, you know, incarnate for a short period of time, burning here, but yet not of here.
And that's what I find fascinating, because people have a tendency to want to say that the primitive man generations, civilizations, where they were so primitive they didn't understand, you know, they weren't sophisticated as we are. They didn't understand what life is. But we're the ones that say, oh, well, life just happens. And they're sitting there going, no, you can have the candle there, but unless somehow there's a spark that's brought in, you can't have life or a process.
Yes. Well, this process, we've burned out the hour.
We have burned our hour.
So take it away.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm Margaret.
And I'm Michael.
And thank you for listening.